Alright, what's going on, everybody? This is Z Street here, back to a brand new video. More college football. Week 9, and it did not disappoint whatsoever. We've been having a big, long streak of really, really great weeks of college football. It's one of my favorite sports. A lot of great games here, a lot of big tests for top teams, and a lot of movement in the top 25. Um, I didn't get to watch as much as I would have liked. I got to watch the very last play of the Texas game, and I got to watch pretty much almost the entirety of the Texas A&M LSU game that you see here before you. Didn't watch a lot of games, but a lot of games throughout the week. Let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off, Indiana versus number UCLA. Now, this was one that people thought might be a bit more closer than what you see. UCLA started out the season 0-5. Fired their head coach, got a new head coach who was a former player for them, and they went 3-0. Now, they didn't play many good teams. They did beat Penn State, who was formerly ranked number 2 in the nation. I believe they were still top 10 at the time of them playing. Penn State, however, has not won a Big Ten game yet, I believe. So Penn State is not a good team. So all their 3 wins were against really not any good quality teams. They're going up against number 2 Indiana, who is arguably, obviously you can see, one of the best teams in the nation. Great offense and great defense. Altogether, a Heisman candidate in Mendoza here, the quarterback. So people thought this might be a trap game, that if Indiana is not prepared and not takes them lightly, they will get beat. However, that was the exact opposite. It was a utter smackdown. 56-6. UCLA did not score a single touchdown. It was utter domination. I believe there was a pick 6, 3 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, a fumble recovery. There was utter dominance of the defense and offensive side here. I mean, Mendoza only had 168 yards, and Henby, the running back, only had 81 yards. But I mean, it's still 56-6. Indiana pretty much demolishes them. I mean, I knew Indiana would win, but I didn't think it would be this much of a blowout, and they prove that they are one of the best teams in the nation, because the best teams in the nation need to be blowing out teams that are not very good, and Indiana gets it done. This game actually was later in the day. I'm not too sure why it's so far up in the schedule. But A&M goes into LSU. Now, in that first quarter, it was lights out for A&M. The very first drive was LSU. They got a stop. Then Marcus Reed went on a 41-yard rushing touchdown, and they quickly went up 14-0, 14-0. And I'm like, yeah, this looks like it's going to be a blowout. Or was it 7-7? I don't remember. But it looked at the very beginning of the game in that first quarter, it was all A&M, and then LSU comes back with a vengeance. There was even a blocked punt, which went into the back of the end zone, so a safety, which allowed LSU to get 2 more points, and they actually led at halftime, 14-18. And LSU had completely flipped the script, and like they were going to have a very competitive game, which they might upset A&M, and a must-need win for their chances of making the playoffs. And then, as you can see, in the second half, it was utter domination. It was unbelievable. 35 unanswered points. LSU finally got a touchdown in garbage time. But A&M puts up 21 points in that third quarter alone, including a punt return by Casey Concepcion, who's arguably one of the best players in the entire nation. Elusive, fast, awesome. We actually talk about this later, but Texas and Texas A&M both had punt returns. So both of the big teams from Texas, from the state of Texas, both had punt returns. I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of college football. That'd be a cool stat to look up. But it was awesome to see that both teams got the same play, resulting in a touchdown on the same day, literally within hours of each other. That third quarter was just unbelievable. It was another smackdown. Garrett Newsmeyer did not have himself a good game. Didn't even hit 200 yards. Marcus Reed, look at this. Look at the stat line, guys. 202 yards. He did have 2 interceptions, including one in the end zone. But he also had 108 rushing yards. I mean, that is insane. I mean, he's in the Heisman candidate. In my opinion, from what I've watched, I think he should be number 1 right now. But he's just unbelievable, gifted player. A&M, this is a statement win for them, blowing out LSU in Death Valley, which is nearly impossible to do, but they did it. I mean, LSU's not as good as we thought they were going to be this year. Former top 10 team to start the season. But still, it's a hard thing to do playing against Death Valley. At the very end of the game, we saw that pretty much all the LSU fans had left, and all the Aggie fans were still there. And that was really funny and cool to see that they had pretty much taken over the stadium and were doing their fight song at that stadium. Like, that is embarrassing for LSU. And Brian Kelly is on the hot seat. I definitely anticipate he will be fired at the end of this season. But A&M has a big gutsy win. Wow, they are for the real deal this year, and they're definitely looking like the best team in the SEC. Now, Alabama might have something to say about that, but they were tested this week. But I would love to see A&M and Alabama play. See who's the best. Alabama. Speaking of tough matchup, Alabama versus South Carolina. They were down. You can see here, 15 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. They survived late. They were down 14 to like 22, and the game was pretty much over. They forced a fumble, marched on the field, tied the ball game up. It was funny. We actually had, with about 2 minutes left, the student section had all come down from the seats to pretty much be right at the sideline, and we're getting ready to storm the field. And Alabama, within that 2 minutes, gets fumble recovery. Goes down, scores, go into overtime, and then Alabama wins in overtime. And then South Carolina has another heartbreaker. Would have been, well, their season's over, but it would have been a really great win to kind of build back some momentum for the rest of the season. Say, hey, this we beat Alabama, but just like last year, heartbreak at the very end. They do not get it done. Lenore Sellers, one of the Heisman candidates early in the season, has not had that great of a year. South Carolina again, team that was in the top 10 this season. I believe they were actually number 10, and they have only had one SEC win so far. And tough year for Carolina, but Alabama escapes narrowly to remain undefeated in the SEC, sitting atop alongside A&M. Ty Simpson had 253 yards as well. Another one of those Heisman favorites. Oregon versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin not undefeated, no wins in the Big Ten. They have had one of their worst seasons in a very long time. Biggest thing to talk about this is that Dante Moore went out on this game and did not return. You can see here, Simmons, QB of Wisconsin, had 86 yards, and that was the passing leader. Let's go ahead and go into the stat line here, and let's check this out at the box score. Dante Moore had 86 yards. Both had 86 yards. And then Brock Thomas came in and threw for 4 out of 4, 46 yards. So Dante Moore goes down. I know I have not seen any stories about his injury and how grievous it is. But they get the job done. This is definitely not as many points as they probably would predicted themselves to score. They normally are a very high-powered offense, but they get the job done, 21-7. Call it a lackluster. They survive a lackluster performance, but as you can see here, Wisconsin didn't score until the fourth quarter. So, maybe not a pretty win, but a win nonetheless. That's what you need. Probably definitely hoping that Dante Moore does not have a serious injury, that he's going to play the rest of the season because they're going to need him. Syracuse, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech blows them out, 41-16. You see here, 17 points in that second quarter. Really blew the gap out, and it was never close again. Undefeated. This is the first time Georgia Tech is 8-0. First time since 1966 or 1962, I believe. So it's been a long time since they've had a really good football program. Hines King, look at this, 304 yards passing, only missed 6 passes and 91 yards. Another one of those guys under the radar that I think should be in the Heisman fair. Honestly, Hines King and Marcus Reed, since there's so much good dual threats, I think they're my top 2 picks over people like Ty Simpson and Mendoza. However, the big thing is how will they play in the biggest games? Like when Georgia Tech plays Georgia in the end of the year, how will they play? When A&M starts playing some good teams, how will they play? Let's look at their schedule right here. I know they played Texas, but I don't think they really have much tests yet. Yeah, the Missouri is their only ranked opponent left. Well, Texas might not be ranked by the time they play, but they have a really easy schedule here. They could definitely go undefeated here and go in the SEC championship undefeated. So I can't wait to see how a lot of these teams play in the playoffs. They're pretty much locks now. Ole Miss and Oklahoma. Now this game, as you can see by the final score, it looks a bit close. But you can see here, Oklahoma pulled it back here in that second half. That's 12-16. So it honestly, what I've overheard is that Ole Miss was pretty much in charge of the game for most of the time. As you see here at the halftime, it was 22-10. Oklahoma had that big third quarter. Chambliss had 315 yards passing, had a great game. Oklahoma suffers their second loss in the SEC, now falling to 2-2, almost picking up a big win to go 4-1, still trying to maintain in that very tough SEC race. Big win for them. Oklahoma just does not get it done. We'll see how far they fall at the top 25. I actually have not seen it yet, so it'll be a live reaction when I pull this up in a bit. Miami playing Stanford. No, no shock here. Stanford's just not a good team. Miami gets a much-needed win after their unfortunate loss to Louisville, where Carson Beck had 4 interceptions. So a week removed from that, Carson Beck looks a lot better. Only 109 yards, 1 touchdown, but they get the job done. 142-7. Vandy playing Missouri, 17-10. Vandy gets a gutsy win at the end, pulls it away. You can see this is not their normal quarterback. Missouri loses their star quarterback. What's his name? Bo Pribula. He's a great one of the, just like a lot of the good. He's really good at dual threat. He can run it, and he's out for probably the rest of the season, from what I've heard. So that's a big loss for Missouri. They are probably going to lose a few more games. Let's actually go ahead and look at their schedule, see what they got going. Yeah, they got A&M, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Definitely a loss here to A&M with their quarterback out. Probably a loss to Oklahoma. They could definitely win Arkansas and Mississippi State, but that's not a guaranteed win there. Those are both teams that have been hanging with pretty much everyone they play. But Missouri's season is pretty much over here. Just sucks for them. I really enjoy watching them play. But yeah, tough break for Missouri. Fall to 2-2. Vandy is 7-1 for the first time since 1942, I believe. Yeah, first time they're 7-1 since 1942. That is no 1941. That's before World War II started. Well, before America entered World War II officially. That is freaking insane. Like, that's insane to talk about, and it's awesome. This is what I love about college football. Like, you don't get this in the NFL, period. So this is awesome. Vandy, looking tough. BYU also undefeated for the first time since, I believe, the 19 somethings. Let's see. Let's Google it. Last time BYU was 8-0. Oh, last year. Oh, so this is the sorry, this is what I'm talking about. This is the first time in BYU history that they are 8-0 in back-to-back years, I believe. First time in program history. They did it last year. So they've had a lot of success from joining the Big 12. I mean, last year they were the definite favorites, and they kind of slipped, had 2 big losses at the end of the season. So let's see if they can keep it going this season and maybe go into the playoffs on the feet. I mean, the Big 12 is very packed conference. There's a lot of good teams that are eating each other up. Better watch out for Texas Tech. But they go 8-0. They get a big win against Iowa State, who had a definitely unfortunate year. They're now 2-3 in the Big 12, under 500. BYU statement win against what was supposed to be a tough contest. Looks like they handled business. Oklahoma State, arguably one of the worst teams in the entire nation, 0-5 in the Big 12. 42-0. Texas Tech had that loss last week. Nice to play a really bad team, get it back going. You see, they actually played 2 quarterbacks in this game. This is the original starter here, I believe. I don't remember who was the TTU starting QB. They got 3 dudes here. So this was the original starter. Yeah. So Morton is the original starter. He got hurt. Well, Hammond came in. He apparently was also kind of got hurt. So now they put in Mitch Griffiths, their third string, who actually did very well, as you can see here, 9-13, 170 yards. So they got 3 good quarterbacks. That's pretty impressive. I mean, there's a lot of oil up there in Lubbock, Texas, so they got mega millions from oil tycoon dude. So they're probably going to be very good for a very long time. They're going to be probably a powerhouse in the Big 12 for the next decade or more. But it's cool to see teams from Texas winning. That's all I care about is teams from Texas winning. So good win. Virginia survived North Carolina. their head coach, Bill Belichick, as you know, from the Patriots, best coach in the history of the NFL, technically. They're 0-3 in the ACC, and Virginia survives in overtime to prove they're 7-1 and undefeated in the ACC. They have had a really, really great year after no one suspected them to do being this well, but they have. So kudos to them. Tennessee playing Kentucky. 0-5 in the SEC. 56 of 34. Tennessee gets a big win for them. And a blowout win, really. South Florida, one of those teams that were looking like the best team out of the group of 5, goes down to Memphis. Memphis gets a huge win in the American Conference. Huge win for Memphis. They're 7-1. South Florida falls to 6-2, and will probably drop out of top 25 rankings. And Memphis will probably replace them. The the Americans also looking very, very tough in terms of just teams that are good. Let's move on to Louisville and Boston College. Louisville having a great year as well. They're 6-1. They're the team that beat South Florida last week. I know Louisville upset Miami with those 4 interceptions. Excuse me. They beat Boston College, who is now winless, still winless in the ACC, 38-24. It's probably more close than they really wanted, but they got it done. Cincinnati versus Baylor. Baylor not having a very, very good year in the Big 12. I don't anticipate they'll be good with how competitive the Big 12 has been. Cincinnati also a really good team in the Big 12. They are 5-0 and 7-1. So who's going to win the Big 12? Don't really know. They get it done 41-20. Now this game was insane in overtime. Texas playing Mississippi State. I said this earlier that if they play like they played against Kentucky, they will lose this game. Like Mississippi State has not won a SEC game now in 16 straight games. That's over a year. Multiple years really. But Mississippi State is definitely, in my opinion, a better team than Kentucky. And as you can see here, Texas had that very first drive. It was the first time I think all year they scored in their very first drive. Got a touchdown. I'm like, oh shit, we might actually do this. And it's the same old thing. We had the worst offensive line of all time. Arch Manning has no time to throw it. I don't even know how many times he got sacked. A lot of sacks. But he has no time to throw it. We even had players dropping balls. Michael Tath is out. That's the leader on the secondary, and Mississippi State started just slinging it. This guy almost had 400 yards. So the defense is not as good as it was without Michael Taft, without that leadership. They put up 7 points in the second quarter, and they're up 24-14, and they score again in the third quarter. So going into the fourth quarter, it's 31-14. The game's over, and then Texas gets 24 unanswered points. I think actually Mississippi State scored, but they start getting some stops. They start getting some scores going down the field. Ryan Niblick gets another punt return, so that's back-to-back weeks that he's got. No, sorry, he did it in Oklahoma. So that's 2 punt returns for him, as I mentioned previously. And Texas will go into overtime. Texas gets the ball first. They score. Actually, Arch Manning goes out on a big hit, and the backup comes in and gets a beautiful pass to the end, back of the end zone for a touchdown. Loft pass, and then Texas gets like 2 back-to-back sacks, I believe, to end the game in overtime. So second week in a row that Texas has come from behind and won in overtime. Again, falling back on that defense to lead the way. I mean, at that point, you got to be at the defense player. You got to be like, seriously, like we're doing all this work to keep games close, and our offense just sucks all game long until the fourth quarter. Like, if Texas had a solid offensive line and allowed Arch Manning to get a rhythm and get throws in, and not have to throw on the run all the time, and then he started finding his rhythm and started making those connections, Texas would be a dangerous team that could win the SEC, win the championship. But I just don't see it's going to happen this year. They got to go in the offseason, got to go either get some transfers on the offensive line because it is atrocious. Regardless, Texas gets it done. Illinois versus Washington. This is one of those teams that I'm like, why are they in the top 25? They've lost. They got blown up by Ohio State, and then they got blown even worse against Indiana. It was 63-10. That was the final score. They did not deserve to be in the top 25, period. And they proved me right. But Washington beats their ass, 42-25. Illinois is not a good team this year at all. They are now under 500 in the Big Ten, and they will probably not sniff the top 25 the rest of the season. Washington, however, having a pretty good year, kind of resurgent year here, 6-2. Again, they did not deserve to be 25, and it's really frustrating that they were in. Houston gets the quote-unquote upset against Arizona State. Houston's now 7-1, 4-1 in the Big 12. Their only loss is to Texas Tech. Sam Levitt. It's either in the fourth quarter. 16 unanswered points. They had not scored until the fourth quarter, and they nearly came back and won, but they just couldn't get it done late. Disappointing year for Arizona State, to say the least. When they were top 20, they were like a top 15 team as well. They will definitely fall out of the top 25, and I honestly don't think they'll sniff the 25 the rest of the season. Michigan versus their NCAA rival Michigan State, who is now winless in the Big Ten. No shocker, they win 31-20. That's it for the scores here. Let's go ahead and check out. First, let's do the stats. Why don't we? We always check out the season leaders for stats. Baylor guy, despite having a bad year, still there. Drew Messmaker in number 2. Now, let me remind you guys about this guy. He never started or played in a game his entire career in high school. A 0-star recruit, was a walk-on at UNT, and is now one of the leading leaders in all college football. Absolutely awesome. Hoover's up there. Aguilar's up there. The Duke guy has fallen out. I believe maybe they had a bye week this week. That's why he's fallen out. Rushing, Hardy is back up number 2. He's closing that gap between him and Cam Cook. So he's had a resurgence. UTSA dude, Michigan dude, no shock there. Receiving, all the Power 5 people have fallen out besides this guy, Makai Lemon. Now, let's go ahead and go into the standings and see what has shaken up. I'm assuming there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to drop out of the top 25 here. That's not rankings. We're going for rankings, not standings. Here we go. No shock here. No movement in the top 6 at all. I definitely agree with that. Ole Miss moves back up 1, vaulting Georgia Tech, despite Georgia Tech being undefeated. But again, they've played a lot more tougher competition. I get that, and they just had a big win against a top 25 team. That's fine. Vandy moves up 1, top 25 at number 9. Sorry, top 10, number 9. BYU moves into the top 10. They both have 10 here, but let's be real. BYU's ahead of them at 10. Miami's at 11. Notre Dame is at 12. Texas Tech is at 13. Tennessee is creeping back in. That move up 3. Number 14. In the top 15 is Virginia. Then we've got Louisville at 16. Cincinnati at 17. Oklahoma drops 5 spots to 18. Missouri's right behind them at 19 at 4-2. Now, again, Texas and Oklahoma had the same rank. Had the same record. Texas beat Oklahoma. Beat their ass. However, they're ranked below them. Doesn't really make sense to me. But Texas is in the top 20. Michigan is at 21. They move up 1. And we look at all this. We have 4 back-to-back unranked teams moving in. We've got Houston, USC, Utah, and Memphis, but no Navy. Navy is undefeated. There's only 4 teams undefeated left. Ohio State. Hold on, let's count. No, sorry, I'm way wrong. There's like 5 or 6. Ohio State's 1, Indiana 2, A&M 3, Georgia Tech 4, BYU 5. So there's 6. So the 6th team is Navy. They're undefeated. Now, they haven't played anyone all year. I'll give them that. But they're undefeated. They're not ranked. I would put them in over probably a team like USC, in my opinion. Or maybe Utah. Honestly, I would put them in over Missouri because the only 2 good teams they've played, they haven't beat. Maybe. But Navy's looking outside despite being undefeated. If I were a Navy player, that would make me upset and want me to play harder. So let's go ahead and go and check out what we got next week cooking up. Memphis and Rice. Should be a blowout. Penn State versus Ohio State. Penn State is going to see there. It's 0-4 in the Big Ten. What a horrible season for Penn State after being number 2 in the nation, now playing Ohio State. It's going to be a blowout, in my opinion. This is a tough matchup for Texas. Texas is still favored because they're at home versus number 9 Vandy. Personally, I don't think Vandy is going to even have a trouble with us. Only thing that's going to happen is if our offensive line somehow has a good game, our training somehow has a decent game, we might have a chance here, but I don't really see it happening. I think Vandy could very well beat us by more than 10 points, but you never know with the way our defense can play. You just never know. Can Texas pull off another miracle and upset Vandy? Miami playing SMU. This is not a gimme game. Quan Jennings. They went to the playoffs last year. They've had a disappointing year so far, I suppose, at 5-3. Let's go ahead and look actually at who they've lost to. Um, Lost to TCU. That's kind of a shock. And Baylor. I'm probably surprised they. Oh yeah, that was that game-winning field goal. And they lost to Wake. Oh, they lost last week to Wake Forest. Wow. So really, when you think about these two games, that's shocking. So kind of in a way disappointing year for SMU. Probably won't make the playoffs, but this is very well could be an upset right here. And they're at home. Honestly, watch out for this game. If Parks and Beck has another bad game, they are definitely going to get beat because Kwan Jennings is a great quarterback. So they got to be careful. This is definitely a popular pick for upset, in my opinion. West Virginia has not got a single win in the Big 12 playing Houston, and they're playing them on the road. Should be a big win. Louisville plays in Virginia Tech. Not a team to be taken lightly when you think about it. They're in Virginia, but Louisville should get it done. Indiana playing Maryland. Should be a blowout. Georgia playing Florida. Again, Florida is really, think about it, it's really, they're not good, but they're not bad either. Like they can, and they're at home, so it's within the swamp, so they can keep play with anybody. I'm honestly not a big fan of Georgia this year. I think they're overrated. Um, but Florida could pull off the upset. I don't anticipate it happening, but they could. Notre Dame and Boston College should be a blowout here. Texas Tech versus Kansas State. Kansas State definitely had a very disappointing year. They're 4-4. This would be a big time upset if they pulled it off. They're at home, so they could do it, but I don't really anticipate that happening. Texas Tech, really darn good team this year. Then you're playing California, another game that should be an easy win. South Carolina and Ole Miss, but again, it should be an easy win. They're at home. Purdue and Michigan. Purdue has not got a win yet, and they're going on the road. Should be an easy win. Georgia Tech versus NC State should be an easy win. Oklahoma and Tennessee. Both these teams desperately need a win here, otherwise their playoff hopes are gonzo. Now Tennessee is at home, but I honestly would like to see Oklahoma pull up this win here. I really think Oklahoma is the better team. I think they have the better defense by sure. Um, Probably not the best offense, but I think their defense will win them the game. USC and Nebraska. This is definitely one of those top probably upset picks. I'm going to be picking Nebraska here to win this game. I have some friends who are Nebraska fans, so I would like to see them pull up the upset against the team from California because I hate teams from California regardless. And I don't think the USC should be in the top 25. And then we got Cincinnati and Utah. Battle of the lower ranked top 25 teams here. Cincinnati undefeated in the Big 12. This would be a huge win for Utah, which would keep them in the Big 12 race. If they lose this game, they're out in the Big 12 race. So Cincinnati, Utah needs to win that game. They're probably going to be playing very, very hard. So that's it for next week. Got a lot of good games going on. And a lot of great games this week. College football is shaping to be awesome so far. Think about like LSU, like the parity of LSU was like they're a top 25 team. One of the teams picked to win the SEC, Great News Fire, one of the Heisman favorites. And they got their ass whooped by A&M, who wasn't even really a team that people considered was going to be a top 10 team, and now they are one of the best teams in the entire nation. One of the teams that picked to win the championship. Crazy. College football, man. Best sport. Definitely better than the NFL, the No Fun League. But that's it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe for more content. Do anticipate getting some more gaming videos coming out. Might make my return to Star Wars Old Republic in the near future, as well as some other videos with some friends. That's going to be it for today's video. Appreciate all the support. As always, this is Zero3 signing out.